So sales activation definitely helps over time, but brand, which is something that's really difficult to get customers from in the early days, actually ended up overtaking sales activation after, the first 4 to 5 years in business. So I'm curious to see if you've seen something like that as well.
Yeah, I think in your space is interesting because as long as you build a larger presence in your specific marketing segment, I think that is actually building a brand. I think people, when they think of brand, they necessarily think of a brand that they'll see on their day to day, where it doesn't have to be a consumer brand you're as familiar with. So another example is, you see the words like Snowflake, it's a gigantic B2B company, yet when you ask the general populace, they have no idea. They think that's something that happens in the winter when it's cold and there's precipitation outside, right? So for me, branding, I think in B2B is unique. I think it's making sure that there's a general awareness of who you are within your space, even very as much as precisely as possible. I felt like even a general familiarity has been helpful in those sales activations. I think that another part of a lot of this is really just social proof has been really important too, because when people look for your information online or there's other organizations that people are familiar with as a consumer brand that they either point to have done stuff with you, that is helpful, I think, from a branding perspective as well. So I think branding is more narrow. It is effective, but more narrow. It can be more narrow and less, doesn't have to be as obvious as I think is what a typical consumer would imagine from a product perspective.